Hello, readers, and welcome back to our study of Cinderella folktales. Now, a good reader will remember that a folktale is a kind of fiction genre, which means that we know that the author has written these stories or told these stories from their heart and their brain. But more specifically, since they're folktales, we also know that those are kind of fiction stories that have been told over and over again by many people. Sometimes folktales are written down by authors where they use the story they've heard before and write their own heart and brain's version of that story. So you've already read two versions of Cinderella folktales with Miss Want and Miss Dunn. You read Cinderella and you read Sumorella, and your brain practiced good reader things with both of these versions. Listening to folk tales, especially ones that are Cinderella folk tales, can help our reading brains, compare and contrast because the stories have many things in common, but also things that are different. So we're going to continue our Cinderella folktale study today, reading this story, Abadeha. Okay, so that's the story we're going to read today. As usual, once we finish, we're going to show you our menu where you have two choices of things you can do with Abadeha to make your reading brain stronger. You can do one of them today and one of them another day. You can do both of them today. Really whatever works for your heart, body, and brain at home. So before we begin Abadeha, we're going to do really just one thing. I'm going to remind you that it's a Cinderella story, which means it'll have all of the same components that other Cinderella stories have had. So be paying attention to those, thinking about text-to-text connections between Abadeha and Cinderella or Sumorella or other Cinderella folktales you may have heard. So let's check in on the front cover. I noticed that this is the main character here. This is Abadeha. And because the author had included some information about this story, I know some things about Abadeha's identities. I know that her gender is a woman. I know that her race is Asian. I know that her ancestors are from the Philippines. I actually know that the author's race identity is Asian and ancestor identity is Filipino as well. And it makes me wonder if the author retold this story or wrote this Cinderella folktale because it connected them or made them feel connected to stories they'd heard from their ancestors. I wonder. I can't know that for sure, but I wonder. So let's begin. Abadeha, the Philippine Cinderella, retold by Myrna de la Paz and illustrated by Yusan Tang. Once upon a time, in the islands called the Philippines, lived a family with two adults and a younger daughter named Abadeha. When she was 13, her mother suddenly became ill and died. They buried her mother in the cool shade of a nearby forest, leaving behind a daughter and a husband whose hearts were filled with sorrow and tears. Those are blue feelings. Abadeha felt that her carefree world had suddenly crumbled. Sometime later, on a trip to another island, her father, APPA, met a widow with two daughters. The lonely widower married the woman and brought the step-family home, hoping they would make a loving family for him and Abadeha. The stepmother immediately saw how lazy and mean her daughters were compared to Abadeha's perseverance and kindness. The stepmother secretly swore to make her new stepdaughter's life miserable. When APPA was gone on a fishing trip, stepmother began treating Abadeha harshly. That means unkindly. She made Abadeha work from morning to night, cleaning the house, fetching water from the river, cooking all the meals, and tending to the stove. Wow, it doesn't seem right that Abadeha has to do all of the work. Whenever Abadeha was tired and tried to rest, stepmother would grab a broom and swing it through the air. "You good-for-nothing lazy girl! Next time I will whip you with the tail of a stingray!" stepmother would screech at the top of her voice. One morning, while Abadeha was scouring clay pots in the kitchen, that means cleaning, stepmother threw two handkerchiefs in Abadeha's face and ordered, "Wash these two handkerchiefs until the white one turns black and the black one turns white. Do exactly as I tell you, or I will whip you until your bones crack." Sadly, Abadeha went to the riverbank. What? Wash the handkerchiefs until they change colors? The job that the stepmother gave to Abadeha seems impossible. That's so unfair. Alone at the riverbank, Abadeha wept, and through her tears she cried out, "Mother, O mother, creator of the earth, Anito spirits of my ancestors, hear me and help me, please." At the water's edge, the wind softly rustled the leaves of the trees. Abadeha turned and saw a beautiful woman bathed in radiant light. Her gentle face was full of kindness. I am the spirit of the forest, the faithful guardian of all that live and grow here. I have come because I have heard your cry for help. Do not worry, your patience and hard work will be rewarded one day. Gently, she took the 2 handkerchiefs from Abadeha's hand and waved them with a flick in the air. The black one turned white, and the white one turned black. Wow, the spirit of the forest must be magic to be able to change the colors of the handkerchief like that. The next morning, stepmother was still furious about the night before, and she continued to make demands on Abadeha. Abadeha had to spread newly harvested rice on a mat to dry in the sun. Then she was to pound, winnow, and cook the rice for the evening meal. While Abadeha was busy in the kitchen, a hungry pig wandered into the yard and gobbled up the drying rice, tearing the mat into tatters. Stepmother watched the whole time, but did nothing to stop the pig. Then, triumphantly, she called in Abadeha and screamed into her ear as she pulled on her hair, "Careless girl, see what the pig did to the rice and to our mat? You must weave the ruined mat back into one whole piece again." Carrying the tattered mat, Abadeha cried all the way to the riverbank, where the spirit of the forest had appeared before. "Mother, oh mother, creator of the earth, Anito, spirits of my ancestors, hear me and help me, please." This time, the spirit of the forest quickly appeared and clapped her hands 3 times. In the wink of an eye, a group of young female magic spirits surfaced and started to weave the mat skillfully back together. In just a few moments, the mat was entirely new again. Before Abadeha could thank them, the spirit of the forest took out a sarimanok, a chicken with a long flowing tail and feathers the color of the rainbow. "Take this with you," the spirit said. "It is now yours." Abadeha said in awe, "I have never seen a more beautiful bird. I am so grateful for your kindness." Carefully, she put the sarimanok and the mat under her arms and started the walk home. Wow, not only did the spirit help Abadeha do another impossible job of weaving the mat back together, it also gave her a gift. I can tell that the sarimanok is very important to Abadeha by the way she's holding it so carefully. Stepmother was quite annoyed when she saw that the mat had been restored. "If I ever find out how you're cheating me, you will be in terrible trouble." "And where did you get that wild bird?" stepmother said, while grabbing the sarimanok from Abadeha's arm. "But it's my pet," Abadeha pleaded. "I will take care of this bird for you," stepmother replied with a twisted smile. Early the next morning, while Abadeha was sweeping the yard, stepmother took the sarimanok from the coop and cooked it for dinner. She said maliciously, "This bird is big and fat. Dinner tonight will be delicious." Weeping, Abadeha gathered to the sarimanok's feet and ran to the river. When Abadeha reached the river, the spirit of the forest was there to meet her, and tenderly it spoke, "Do not be afraid, my child. Go bury the sarimanok's feet by your mother's grave and pray to your ancestors." Obediently, Abadeha did what she was told. She planted a little garden around her mother's grave, and she knelt down and prayed. "Since you left, O dear mother, the days are longer and the work is harder. My tears flow like a river. If I could touch you in my heart, I would be stronger." As if heaven was answering her prayer, a warm, gentle rain began to fall and wash away her tears. Miraculously, where she had planted the sarimanok's feet grew an enchanted, that means magic, tree laden with treasures. Rings, bracelets, necklaces, earrings, pearls, diamonds, and golden gowns all hung from the boughs of the tree. Abadeha was excited to have found the unusual tree. She decided to keep it a secret and only took a few pieces of jewelry with her. Returning home, Abadeha hid the pieces in an old trunk. When she went into the house, stepmother was already waiting for her. "Where have you been? You're trying to get away from your work again," the cruel woman said as she threw a blanket at Abadeha. "Now mend the blanket, this instant." I don't know about you, but I'm so glad that Abadeha hid the treasure. I bet stepmother would have taken it otherwise. While hunting in the forest one day, the handsome son of the island chieftain saw a sarimanok. He followed it to Abadeha's secret garden. The prince could not believe his eyes when he caught sight of this magic tree. He immediately understood that it must be magical. He took out tobacco leaves and betel nuts from his bag and respectfully laid them in front of the tree trunk. Then he knelt down and bowed his head. Spirit of the forest, forgive me for stepping on your sacred ground. Please accept my humble offerings and allow me to receive one of the precious gifts from the tree. That means I'm going to take one of the things and exchange these offerings in return. The prince picked a ring from a branch and slipped it onto his finger. That evening, at home, that finger began to swell. He called out to Datu, his father. Father, my finger hurts badly, and I cannot remove this ring, the prince said with a shaking voice, his face distorted with pain. The author has shown us now that there's a new character, the chieftain's son, and he has a ring from Abadeha's tree, and it's stuck on his finger. The night wore on, and the pain in the prince's finger became unbearable. In a fevered dream, a Sarimanak came to him with an orchid in its beak. The prince took the flower and kissed it. All of a sudden, the flower turned into a person. She opened her hand and showed him a ring. The prince looked down at his hand, and the ring was no longer on his finger in his dream. The prince woke up in a heavy sweat and told his father what had been revealed to him in the dream. His father quickly summoned the island messenger and ordered, "Beat your drums! Tell everyone that the woman who can remove the ring from my son's finger will be the chieftain one day." Wow, it sounds like the chieftain's son had a magic dream. There's only one person who will be able to get the ring unstuck from his finger. Now, I recognize who that person was in his dream. The illustrator has shown us, but the author didn't say. The messenger wasted no time. By midday, he had spread the news to all the islands. A great number of people flocked to see the prince, but none of them could remove the ring. When Abadeha heard about the ring, she asked permission to go. "You do not deserve to see the prince. Your place is in the kitchen." Stepmother pushed Abadeha inside and locked the door. But as stepmother lay down on a hammock for her nap, the spirit of the forest appeared and unlocked the door for Abadeha. "The chieftain's son waits for you," she said with a smile. "Go now and see him." Abadeha's stepsisters were at the prince's royal house when she arrived. "How dare you come here?" the first one snarled. "Look at yourself. You're so filthy," the second one said with a glare. The prince heard the commotion and signaled, "Let her come near." Everyone looked on in disbelief as Abadeha, in her ragged clothes, approached the prince. Lovingly, she took the prince's hand and gently removed the ring from his finger. He exclaimed as he pressed her hands against his heart, "You're the one! Today you are a princess, and one day the chief." All the people on the islands of the Philippines rejoiced at their wedding. Dancers, singers, musicians, poets, and magicians put on their best performances to celebrate the largest and merriest wedding anyone had ever seen. Abadeha wore the golden gown and jewelry from her enchanted tree. Hovering happily nearby was the spirit of the forest, a special guest that only Abadeha could see. Abadeha's father came home just in time for the occasion. He was sad that she had had to endure such suffering while he was away, but he was proud of her for her courage. As for stepmother and the two daughters, the prince banished them to the chicken yard, where they spent the rest of their lives. Abadeha and the prince shared their happiness and wealth with people on the islands. As they ruled as chieftain and chieftainess, they enjoyed a long life of harmony, peace, and love. Good readers, that is the end of the story. The good reader question is this: why did the spirit of the forest help Abadeha in the first place? Why did the spirit of the forest help Abadeha? Think about that, remembering that good readers will use evidence. And if you're able, pause this story and talk with someone near you about why you think the spirit of the forest helped Abadeha. It will sound like the spirit of the forest helped because. Great, but you had great conversations. For me, I think the spirit of the forest helped because she said that Abadeha was patient and hard work. She'd noticed about her heart and brain that she was patient and worked really hard, and the author wrote that, so the spirit of the forest wanted to help. Now, the last thing you're going to do today is here's your menu of options you have for what work you can do with this story. There are two things you can do. You can retell the story. That means tell all the parts of the story, knowing that a Cinderella folktale has a main character, villains, some sort of fairy godmother who has magic, there's a ball or a party, somebody loses something, and then there's a reveal and a happy ending. You can also do a Venn diagram comparing Abadeha with another Cinderella story.